been told pressing the blue button makes you a hero. In a theoretical global vote where your survival depends on everyone else being as noble as you are, then if the majority don't choose blue, every idealist dies. Only the people who chose the selfish red button get to walk away. By betting your life on the hope that billions of strangers will manage to do the right thing, you aren't being some saint. Instead, you're betraying the people who actually matter. Dear viewer, let me make the case that the red button is the only choice a truly moral person can make. The allure of the blue button. If you haven't seen this dilemma tearing up your social media feed, frankly, you're lucky, because it was almost as bad as that blue and black versus white and gold dress nonsense. But as with every single one of these crazy social media contrivances, the premise here is pretty simple. This is a global vote where every man, woman, and child participates. Blue saves everyone, but only if the majority of voters press blue. So, greater than 50%. Pressing red saves only you, no matter what. So it doesn't matter what everyone else presses. So that means if everyone in the globe votes, and the blue vote is under 50%, well, if you press red, you're fine. Doesn't matter. If everyone pushes over 50% for blue, well, you're still fine if you voted red. Now, in my opinion, this thought experiment, as many of them are, is cleverly disguised as a test of greed and selfishness, and a lot of people read it that way, like a frightening number of them. But it's actually a test of survival and critical thinking. Now, at this point, you might be asking yourself, how are we even getting here? How is this a controversy? You probably think the choice is obvious. I should press blue, or should press red. It doesn't matter what this guy's saying. Why is this even a question? Let's see the merits for pushing the blue button. I can honestly see the appeal of it. I get it. It represents the best of us. Hope, trust, the belief that we can all come together as one. This is a utilitarian argument, a philosophy that says the most moral action is the one that creates the greatest good for the greatest number. And here, in this scenario, it's pretty obvious. Greatest good is clear. All 8 billion people in the globe survive. Even if you're an idealist, a believer in a utopia, or a utilitarian, well, the blue button is the only choice that offers clean, beautiful, optimal solution. Everyone lives. Nothing changes in the globe. You're willing to put your life on the line for the good of humanity. It's declaring that you believe in your fellow human beings. It's like the idea that if we were invaded by some outside alien force, humanity would all lock arms and fight together to prevent our own extinction, right? Of course. Sure, you might not like the guy on the other side of the globe, but you don't want all humanity to go extinct. It embraces this idea of universalism. Another term there for you. The idea that every human life has equal moral worth, and that the obligation to a stranger is no different than our obligation to a neighbor. And when you imagine pressing the blue button, and when you imagine pressing it, you feel a sense of virtue, belonging, like you're part of the solution. You're making a difference. And by contrast, the red button, it feels like a betrayal. It feels dirty. Selfish, even. A rejection of all that is good in the world. In fact, online, the supporters of blue button pressing will hit you with what may be called the Kantian categorical imperative. There's something I bet you never heard before. The idea that one should only act according to the rules that one would want to become universal law. What if everyone pressed the red button? Is that a world we would really want to live in? The implication is that a world of red button pressers is a world of selfish cowards, and that in order to be moral, you must assert the choice that you would want everyone to make. You would want everyone to press the blue button. Therefore, no matter what anyone else does, you yourself must also make that choice. This is the story we tell ourselves about moral progress. That civilization and moral society hinges on caring for our neighbor and unselfishly moving forward in the world. The blue button is the final step in that journey, from caveman to modern man. But in reality, this is a dangerous fantasy built on flawed math and a fundamental misunderstanding of what morality truly is. The cold truth of insignificance. Let's take the emotion out of it for a second. Let's look at this as a pure problem of logic. Let us use our reason. Outside of the idealist case, the whole argument for the blue button rests on a false assumption that your choice matters to the global outcome. It does not. There are over 8 billion people on planet Earth, and for blue to win, it will need at least 4 billion votes. Let us do the math. I assure you, it is fairly rudimentary. When you cast your single vote for blue, you're changing the global percentage by 0.00000000125%, roughly 1 in 4 billion. That number is, for all practical purposes, 0. To be frank, your vote is not the one that will push the count from 49.99% blue to 50.01% blue. There is no world where, unto you specifically, vote, that the tally will be 4 billion reds and 4 billion blues. Such a perfect balance would be impossible, and to assume it would be illogical. Now, I can grant a certain amount of idealism, in the case that one firmly believes that blue would win such a global vote. They may simply have a desire to be with the ideal scenario, to be on the winning team, as it may. I don't find it to be logical, but I can excuse the ideal. But, dear viewer, if you believe that you, personally, are at the center of this world-shattering event, that is a delusion. Thanks, Spock Eternal. I'll take it from here. Now, nothing is stopping you from coordinating with others. That scenario didn't prohibit cooperation. Just like you can coordinate to vote blue, you can coordinate with everyone else to vote red. That means you can ensure that you, your entire family, or your friends all vote red and are safe. Dare I throw another term at you? This scenario is a classic mini-person version of the prisoner's dilemma. The conflict between what is rational for the individual versus what is rational for the group. So let's look at what's not good for humanity, but for you, because you're the only one who actually matters in this scenario. You're not pushing for the entire globe. You're pushing for one person. Yourself. And, well, whoever else you can convince to push the same button with you. Scenario 1. You push the red button. If blue wins, you survive. If blue loses, well, that means you still survive. If you push red, your outcome is guaranteed survival. Scenario 2. You push the blue button. Well, if blue wins, everyone survive. You survive. If blue loses, well, you unfortunately die. So from a standpoint of pure self-interest, red is the dominant strategy. It just is. It gives you the best outcome no matter what anyone else does. Now the blue button advocate will scream, but that's selfish. If everyone thinks that way, we're doomed. But that's the point. First, we aren't doomed if everyone thinks that way. If 100% of people press red, 100% of people will survive. Second, and more importantly, you specifically. You are not everyone. You are one person making one choice with zero meaningful impact on a collective result. You're essentially what they call a free rider. You can let the idealists and the gamblers bet on blue. If they win, you do too. If they lose, you don't have to go down with them. Choosing blue when your vote has no impact on it is not moral. It's, to be blunt, it's just a form of pointless self-sacrifice. The Great Wall of Mistrust. Now let's say you're willing to just ignore the math. You're romantic. You still have to deal with the second, much bigger problem. The 8 billion other people voting with you. How well do you really know the entire planet? Think about it. You're trusting a farmer in rural China, a billionaire in Silicon Valley, a fisherman in Peru, a factory worker in India, a warlord in Sudan, and a teenager in Lagos will all read the instructions in the exact same way, interpret the moral stakes identically, and come to the exact same noble conclusion. See, this is where pressing blue runs into a lot of severe problems, to put it lightly, because our world isn't some high-trust collective. In reality, it's deeply divided in a patchwork of cultures and value systems. You can literally look at the globe. You can see the borders separating countries. There's a reason Luxembourg, as tiny as it is separate from all the other countries around it. There's a reason Chile is that little sliver thing down the side of South America. There's a reason Scotland isn't the same as England or Britain. I'm sorry, Britishers, I never remember the difference. And it's not just geography. Each one of these 194 to 210, depending on how you count the vote, each one of these countries have their own cultures and their own moral frameworks, their own ideas of what right and wrong is. So the idea that you have a primary moral duty to a stranger on the other side of the planet is a very, very, very Western idea. So to bet your life that your principles are shared by a majority of 8 billion people who clearly can't get along is, in my opinion, let's just say it's not a good idea. Because one common complaint I've seen is, I don't want to live in a world of red pushers. Now that logic is flawed from the ground up, but the biggest flaw is, you already do. In fact, I tried to estimate, based on my limited knowledge, sorry South America, I don't know a lot about you, how I thought this vote would go for various countries. And I'll probably put those results on screen. You can pause it if you're interested, but the long and short of it is, just due to India and China alone, the vote will be too imbalanced toward red. And it doesn't even require factoring in Africa. Because to vote blue, you're not just trusting that everyone is good. You're trusting that everyone is well-rested, well-fed, educated, sober, and mentally sound. You're betting your life on Somalia, India, Sudan, China, and North Korea. Sure, there are good people in those countries, don't get me wrong, but the reality is not just the cozy West is part of this vote. We're not just talking about the United States, UK, France, Germany, etc. We're talking about every dysfunctional country in Africa. Yeah, they're part of it too. And when you're thinking about this vote, just think about how many years Sudan has been in a civil war. It's been at least 50. You should look at the genocides going on there. Do you think they care about the globe? I hate to break it to you, they don't even care about each other. All 26 million people in North Korea are going to be ordered to vote red by Kim Jong-un. There's no way he's going to jeopardize his slave state paradise. So honestly, voting blue is the most optimistic assessment of human nature imaginable. And frankly, it's a bet that no sane person should take. The moral case for the red button. So far, we've established that pressing red is the only rational choice. We've explained how it's the only choice that accounts for the unpredictability of human nature and the predictable, divisive part of human nature. But is it the moral choice? You see, you should reject the simplistic, universalistic framework of idealists and embrace a more rational and, in my opinion, religious system of morality. The ethics of special obligations. I promise, that's the last term I'm going to throw at you. Maybe. For your entire life, you've been told that morality means treating everyone the same. This is a gross oversimplification, because common sense morality is built on partiality, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. You do not have the same duties to a random stranger as you do to your own child. I'm sorry. If you did, you would be a moral monster, spending your days stretching yourself thin for everyone equally while not really managing to help anyone. In fact, the Bible considers a man, a head of household who does not provide for his family, to be worse than an infidel. In other words, he's lower than a mangy dog on the street, or a person who betrays his country. And now imagine a father who sees his own daughter and another child drowning. He only has time to save one. So if he flips a coin and says, all lives have equal value, we wouldn't praise him as a paragon of justice. We wouldn't say, wow, that man really stuck to his values to the bitter end. No, we would condemn him for failing to fulfill his most fundamental duty as a parent, taking care of your own children. But in fact, I would actually go further than that. If I had a chance to save a bus full of people who fell off on one side of the pier, or my daughter who fell off on the other side of the pier, and I could only save one or the other, I'm saving my daughter. The phrase, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few, I promise that's not a term, really only has bite to it if you're sacrificing yourself for the many. It just comes off as kind of lame if you're sacrificing someone else. You have special obligations to your family, your friends, and your community. These could be viewed as expanding circles of influence and responsibility, or as a pyramid. But they are the sources of love, loyalty, and the bonds that frankly make life worth living. Parents in particular have a primary, non-negotiable duty to protect their own children. This duty supersedes any abstract obligation to a hypothetical global collective. Now, I know this idea is against modernity, where people would rather feel like they're part of a global movement for the environment or some oversimplified humanitarian cause. But the reality is, 99.9% of people will only be able to influence their own choices and barely make a difference to the world immediately around them. That's why each of our responsibilities, your responsibilities, my responsibilities, are to ourselves, our family, then the community, then county, state, world, in that order. That's the order we should be operating in. You are a parent, a spouse, a guardian, a brother, a sister, a daughter, a son, or a friend, or even a dedicated worker in a community or a company. Pushing the red button is fulfilling your obligation, your duty to the people closest to you. So in that moment, your primary duty isn't to gamble your life on some 51% shot that everyone pushes a blue button. No, your duty is to guarantee your survival for the sake of everyone else. So it doesn't matter what happens to the globe. It doesn't matter what happens to everyone else. You survive, and you get as many people around you as possible to survive. No matter what, your duty is to continue living for them. Convince as many as you can to push the red button, because pressing the red is not some pejoratively selfish act. It's the fulfillment of a trust, a duty, a trust that, for me, as a father, is saying my first and most important moral duty on this earth is to my children, and I will not fail them. So in short, a world where everyone abdicates their primary duty to their family in favor of a vague duty to humanity is not a utopia. It's a world of orphans, where everyone is responsible for everyone else, and therefore, no one's responsible for anyone.
And when everyone's super, no one will be.
So if you get nothing else out of this video, if none of these terms have mattered to you, if none of my incessant boomer rambling has meant a single thing to you, get this one thing. Survival is a precondition for all other moral action. The singular axiom upon which all other choices hinge. If you want the world to be a better place, you must press red. So now, I ask you, you were in that room. There are two buttons glowing. On one side, a gamble on a utopian dream, and on the other, a guarantee for yourself and your family. Armed with this new information, which button do you press? Let me know in the comments what your decision is and why, especially if this video changed your mind. And if you think the divide between this red and blue buttons was intense, as for some reason it was online, then continue to explore how these same moral fractures are tearing apart the real world right now. Click here to see why the dream of a unified collective might already be dead. And, well, I'll see you again next time. Bye!